everyone, Angela here. Life can be challenging. Trust me, I get it. However, I have learned we can either view the opposition or value the opportunity. Ponder on the problem or praise the potential. Focus on the situation or find the solution. Despite the current circumstances you're going through, I invite you to join me today as we embark on a grand adventure to discover the reasons why it's a good time to be you.
Here's the encourager herself, making every day a good day, Angela Henderson.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad you're here today. Thank you for being with us. So turn to your neighbor and say, it's a good time to be you. Yes, and it is. Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your time with us. You know, time is very important. In real estate, we say time is of the essence. And it's the same thing with life. We've been given a start date and an end date. And none of us know when that end date is. But it's important that we fulfill our purpose while we have time. A young man struggles with drug addiction. And then he faces what is just unimaginable and what is truly called a trial by fire. However, it was through that and the grace and the mercy of the Lord that he came out shining like pure gold. And now he is using his time to bring glory to God. And so don't go away. We will be right back as we introduce to you the father and son team, Grady Hendrix and his son Robert, as they share their most heroic story with us. And we'll see you in a few. Check out my new book on AngelaDHenderson.com and take a journey to discover the many reasons why it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. So at this time, I'd love to introduce to you Robert Hendrix and Grady Hendrix. Robert and Grady, come on out. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you with us today. Thank you. Thank you. Please have a seat. Thank you, Grady. It's a pleasure. God bless you. We are so excited about this opportunity to just share your story, and it is truly a miraculous story. And so thank you so much, gentlemen, for being able to come on and join with us. So let's just start a little bit with your background, okay, if you will. Dad, why don't you tell us a little bit about Robert and what he was like as a child?
He was pretty typical, a little scrawny runt, growing up doing what kids do. He was pretty good in school, and he got did a lot of stuff, and he was pretty active. So he had a lot of friends, and then he growed up.
Now, is Robert your only child, or do you have other children?
I have an older son called Chuck Hendrix, who is named after my dad, and he's in ministry as well.
Wonderful.
So,
That is great.
16 months, I think, is the difference.
Oh, really? 16 months difference. So you had them close together.
We did.
So, Robert, were you and your brother very close in relationship?
Not really.
Not really? So what was your upbringing like, Robert? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It was pretty good. I went to church, and I did the cameras at the church.
Yeah.
So I went to church every week just because I did the cameras.
Okay.
And then, like I said, I went to school. I was in the marching band.
Wow. What instrument did you play?
A baritone saxophone.
Oh, wow.
A real big one.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Then I went to work for a couple construction places and a garbage company, and
Okay, so just doing life.
Yeah.
So how did you get introduced to the drugs?
It's just a party thing.
A party
Like
thing.
every week we'd do it, and then every day I would do it.
Wow.
Like from when I was like 16 or 17, I started smoking weed,
Okay.
Then it's turned on to like cocaine and all kinds of other everything else.
Wow. So was this when you first started doing like the marijuana, were other people in, I guess, the group that you hung out with just introducing you to newer things, or was this just something in your mind, I think I'd like to try something new?
Right. That's kind of what it was.
Okay, so it was just the more you had, the more you wanted, the more you desired.
And then I sold drugs too, so it's like they got them for free.
Wow.
Pretty much. That's the way I was looking at it. I was getting them for free.
And so that's
I
what
just did
attracted
it.
you to selling then, was because you did get them for free, or
Yeah.
was, okay,
Like if I sell them, then I don't have to pay for my share.
wow.
Everybody else would pay for it for me. So
Wow, wow.
that's why I ended up doing so much probably. Because
Okay.
I had them all the time.
Because you could have just easy access.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Dad, during that time, what was kind of going on in your life as your son was engaging, in the drug
Yeah.
scene?
The amazing part is he was also engaged in the alcohol scene, and
Okay.
that is a scene that is readily acknowledged. But you can see that,
Right.
and so I was probably doing what a lot of Christian dads do, in saying, my son's okay, he's not doing nothing illegal, or and in fact he came to me one night on the porch before this happened and said he just needed help. We put him in rehab. He came out of rehab, but his story he'll tell you about that. But I was thinking, okay, we are on an incline now, and in retrospect, it actually was a decline.
Wow.
And so, but you never want to say your son's a drug addict or your son's selling drugs, even though you know it.
Right.
And I never had an answer. I could not find an answer to what to do. The answer I knew wasn't going to happen was he wasn't leaving.
Right.
I wasn't throwing him out. We weren't going to say, if you're going to do this, you're not living here. That was not an option for us. I was way more comfortable with him in the house or in the back of the property there, because I knew he was there.
Right.
And never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that in the middle of the night I was going to hear an explosion and be cast into this journey that we were cast into.
Wow. Wow. Well, we're going to take a quick break because we want to get back to this and hear about this explosion that happened. So please don't go away. We'll be right back. Hey, as a leader, you are a broker of gifts. So whether you are a professional, a business owner, or a ministerial leader, I would love to accompany you in transforming your ordinary staff into an extraordinary team through leadership development, team building, and personal discovery. You will learn the amazing gifts, skills, and talents that each of you have and know how to bring them together in order to do great things. So reach out to me at AngelaDHenderson.com and let's begin your amazing adventure today. And remember, it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. We have with us today a father, Grady Hendricks, and his son, Robert Hendricks, who are sharing with us just an amazing story of just the miraculous power of God while going through a literal trial by fire. And so, Grady, right before we went to the commercial break, you had brought up the fact that there was an explosion that took place in your life that was totally unexpected.
Totally
and
unexpected.
so with that being shared, Robert, can you please share with us a little bit more along those lines and what happened? What was the situation and the circumstance that just changed your life forever?
Well, I was hanging out in my little tiny house I built in the backyard, like a little shed.
Okay.
And I had all my stuff, like TV, refrigerator, couch. It had an upstairs. It was just like a 10 by 12 size shed.
10 by 12.
And I have a cannon, and I was making gunpowder. So there was gunpowder everywhere spread out. There was Coleman Kemp fuel, which is like kerosene,
Okay.
in a bucket, or not a bucket, but like a glass bucket kind of. And then there was stuff to make meth, like lithium batteries, was all breaking apart in there.
Yes.
So the lithium batteries, when they get wet, if like moisture gets on them, they catch on fire.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking. That's exactly how it started. Was lithium batteries caught on fire, and then it just started. The whole place exploded, and I was trapped inside there for like 10 seconds. The door was locked, and I was holding my breath, and I was hitting the door trying to get it open, but I didn't realize it was locked. So I looked down, and I was like, oh well, it's locked. And so I unlocked it, and then I opened it. Right before that, I took a breath of fire. I breathed in, and nothing but flames went in my throat.
No.
Yeah, so then I kicked the door open and woke up 5 months later in Augusta.
Woke up in Augusta.
Yeah, apparently I turned around and went back in and saved my friend out of there because she was in there too, and
Oh,
she told me I went back in there for her, but I don't remember doing that.
wow, Robert. And so obviously she survived as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and now with her, does she experience the body burns as well?
Yeah, not as bad as I did though. Just like
Right.
40, like her left side of her body got burnt. like just on our left side.
Yes. And what year was this, Robert? When did this happen?
2019.
2019. So this has been very recently.
April 12th, 2019.
April 12th, 2019. Well, if you'll allow me to, I'd like to just kind of speak a little bit into this significant date, where your life made a change and you began to embark in a new trial and a new journey. April is a month that means open doors. It means opportunity. It means productive and of the earth. And so in this month of April, God knew that this fire was not meant to destroy you, but it was going to produce something in you that would really change your life forever and that would continue to produce even beyond that. And you said it was the 12th, is that correct?
Yeah.
And so the number 12 represents ruling and reigning, or the government of God. And so God was actually setting you up to actually rule and reign over what once held you captive. Those times of being in bondage to that addiction. But now it was being flipped. You were going to rule and reign over it. And with it being 2019, the number 20 represents redemption, and 19 means faith, truth, and hearing. And so in this moment, even though God didn't start that fire, all right, he knew that you would be open to truth at this point in your life. And so he thought, okay, we're going to make this productive. We're going to use it for good. I'm going to get this young man's attention, my son's attention, because he is going to rule and reign from this point on. He is going to walk in a place of authority where this is concerned. And so what the enemy meant to destroy you with, and even something that was done, even in a moment, when you could have, died, the Lord said, no, you will not die, but you will live. And so that's pretty amazing, Robert. Okay, Grady, Father. Okay, where you heard the explosion.
Right.
He shared with us what was going on at that moment in the midst
Inside
of
the
it.
midst, yeah.
What were you seeing?
I just seen fire. I got up out of bed. We had just finished building a chicken coop, and I went to sleep with my wife, and this amazing thing. My head thinks somebody came in the yard, because I knew he was into methamphetamine, and all the signs pointed to it. I'm thinking somebody came in and just shot my son.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And so I immediately jumped up, and I seen this fire.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, and he's running around. We're on fire. We're burned. I'm burned. I'm burned. And when you see first look at a burn victim, you're thinking, no, you're not. You're just scared. And so, but he was running all over, trying to help me put the fire out. Put a little water hose on the fire is, you're just like, yeah, forget it. It's gas fire. So, but he was just running around, and we finally got him in the house. And I finally got him set down, but my mind, my spirit was I'm about to lose my youngest son, because I didn't do anything about his drug addiction. I didn't stand firm. I didn't do what I should have done.
Wow.
And so the initial thoughts is that this is my fault.
Oh.
I did this to my son.
Well, Grady, when we come back, we're going to continue on this path right here with you to find out more of what God really was saying to you in those moments. And so please don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. And so we're just going to dive right back in. So Grady, when we went to our break, you were sharing about just something, an epiphany almost that kind of just kicked in when this happened to your son. And all of a sudden you had these thoughts. It's almost like I think sometimes we struggle as parents. We have this parent guilt thing that we walk through. And I think it's a natural human reaction. It might not always be the most spiritual one, but we're humans as well.
right.
And so with you, the thought kicked in that you caused this.
That's right.
So
I killed my son.
So tell us what more, how did you work your way out of that?
I worked my way out of that. Probably about 25 minutes later, my older son, Chuck Hendricks,
Okay.
I was sitting on the porch listening to the fire marshal tell me that we can't go out there because when your son, not if, the fire marshal said when your son dies,
Oh my gosh.
then the state's going to have to come investigate this.
Oh,
And that makes it real
yeah.
because this guy's a professional. And my son looked me in my face and he began to pray. And we began to pray and we began to seek God. And we were just in another dimension. And God assured me at that moment that you didn't cause this and he won't die.
Well, you know, you mentioned 25 minutes, and the number 25 represents grace multiplied. And so God's grace was sufficient in that moment. You know, at a moment of extreme weakness, you know, his strength was made perfect in this situation. And so, and the power of prayer and the miracle that we're seeing right here, you know, with Robert. Now, Robert, you were sharing that when you went to open that door, that you took a breath.
Yeah.
And
I was holding my breath for so long, and if you hold your breath underwater, you come up, you go
yes.
like that.
And that's
So that's what I did, and nothing but flames went in my throat. 'Cause
Pure
I was standing
flames.
over a bucket of gasoline, pretty much, that was on fire, and I
Wow.
breathed in, and nothing but flames went in my throat. And that's the
oh my gosh.
last thing I remember for 5 months.
For
and
5
then-
months. Okay. Well, I'd like to what I'm hearing even in that situation and in that moment. Again, your father was sharing the number 25, but the number 5 represents grace itself. And so, you know, when you engulfed in those flames, it became an inward fire. It was like you were caught on fire on the inside.
Yeah.
And again, going back to what the enemy meant to destroy you with in a spiritual sense, you know, the fire has to begin within in order for that transformation to take place in our lives, you know, and it's like that igniting of the spirit of the Holy Spirit in our lives. And so again, what a horrific thing to experience and a horrific thing to walk through. But if there could be anything good that could be said about it, it was that the Spirit of God was beginning the work inwardly, you know, in you as he was bringing transformation, you know, into your life. So we've got you to 5 months when you awoke, but there was a lot of things that were taking place, Robert, during that time that you don't remember, but Grady, you do.
I do.
So what was happening during this 5-month period?
Well, we could go all the way back to when he came out. He broke the fire. We finally got him in the house, and I'll never forget if I live to be 150. He looked me in my eyes. He said, "Dad, I'm sorry." He said, "Dad, I'll never do this again." And then he looked up, literally looked up, and said, "God, I'm sorry."
Wow.
And as soon as he said, "God, I'm sorry," he was on the floor, and he began to speak in a language that I had never heard. I do know he didn't study language in school.
Oh, wow.
And he would speak for a few minutes, then he would listen for a few minutes. He would speak for a few minutes, he would listen for the few minutes. The EMS people were confounded. And that's because God had told me he's not going to die. He's going to survive.
Amen.
And so that was a big deal for me.
Yes, sir.
I knew God was beginning to work in him because he was talking to God, my father, his father. He did that for like, I don't even, the whole time they packaged him up, they put him in an ambulance. Poor ambulance driver looked at me and I said, "It ain't for you." I said, "He's not talking to you. Don't worry about it. Do what you got to do." And the next time I seen him, of course, he was at the hospital. And that was traumatic. But and in the 5 months, his mama, Carolyn Hendricks, was at the hospital every single day. 3 times a day we could visit. And she made every single visit. She didn't miss one. Rain, shine, it didn't make any difference. When we first arrived, this is so important. When we first arrived, we met his surgeon, Dr. V, and he looked at us right in the eye. The doctor at the EMS doctor, or the emergency doctor at Trident had already told us, we're going to send him, but they didn't expect him to get to Augusta, no way. And his doctor said he has less than 1% chance of survival. And the reason he has it because he breathed in fire and smoke into his body. And we went back to where we were staying and we said, I absolutely just disagree with that because God had already told me that. And 3 days later, the doctor said, I don't know, his lungs were completely full of fire and smoke. He said, that will kill him. He will not survive because of his lungs. 3 days later, his lungs were completely and absolutely clear. No smoke, no fire, no adverse reactions at all.
Gosh. Well, you know what is just coming to me when you mentioned those 3 miracles. You know, first of all, he apologized to you.
Yes.
And number 1 represents the mind of Christ, or the singleness of mind. And, you know, Jesus came that we could have reconciliation. And number 2, the miracle was that you asked forgiveness. You told God that you were sorry. And that represents witness. And number 3 represents divine unity of the Father, Son, and Spirit. And that's when Holy Spirit began to speak through you and communicate in that heavenly language to your Heavenly Father, and empowerment, and how we just heard from the Lord about that engulfing of that fire within. And then this is what came out, that dunamis power was demonstrated through you in that moment. And you said he was given a 1% chance to live.
Less than.
And see, even then, that was, again, the mind of Christ. You know, because you took that mind on, Grady, and you said, no, that is not going to happen. And you stood firm on your faith, having that mind of Christ, which was about the Father's business, wanting the Father's will to be done. And again, going back to, what was it, three days later? The clearing of the lungs, which again was the divine will of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, because you came into an alignment with it, and you agreed and said, this is how it's going to be. And it was definitely fulfilled in you. So this is getting great. We do have to go to another break here, but when we come back, we're going to find out what happened when Robert woke up 5 months later. Hey everyone, Angela here. Just wanting to invite you to share your story with us. You know, we all have times in our lives when it just seemed like it was impossible. But then there was that moment of breakthrough. And just maybe your story was meant to be shared and imparted to be able to encourage and uplift others. Well, we would love to be able to give you that opportunity. So how about send your story into us at itsagoodtimetobeyou@gmail.com for consideration. We would love the opportunity to be able to bring you up on stage so that you can do what you were designed to do. And that was to be an encouragement to those around you. You know, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. But when it happens, we want the world to know about it. So again, reach out to us at itsagoodtimetobeyou@gmail.com and send in that story for us to consider. And remember, it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for being with us today as we are just walking through this trial by fire and seeing the end results of this, pure gold, with us on stage today. And so, Grady, before we went to the break, you were sharing with us about the 3 miracles that were just 3, you know, that were mentioned during that time frame of while Robert was kind of, you know, out and not aware of the situation of what was going on. Being, first of all, he told you he was sorry. Right. He told the Lord that he was sorry, and then he began to speak in another language that he had not learned, and we know that to be the language of the Spirit, where he was communicating with his Father God. And so, Robert, how has this situation changed your life?
Oh, well, I definitely changed it.
Yeah.
I used to be on the fast lane, so
Okay.
take it a little easier now.
You take it a little easy now. You slow down a little bit, right?
A little.
So, what are some of the things that you and your dad do?
Well, just drive around and go to places, churches and stuff.
That's wonderful. So you guys have kind of become a power team.
A lot of vacationing.
That's good. That's
We
good.
do that,
A lot of family time.
Yeah, and I still go to the hospital all the time too.
Okay. So frequent visits, or?
Yeah, like every couple months.
Okay. Well, I know that you're an inspiration to those even in the hospital that you come in contact with, the doctors and the nurses, especially those that were speaking death over you, you know, and now to see you alive and well with a fresh start. That is so beautiful. That is amazing. So you had mentioned that there were other things that the doctors had told you that we are seeing the results of just your prayers, but what was some other things that the doctor said he wasn't going to have or do?
the doctor had came to us and said because of his hands, if you'll look at his hands, they don't have any meat. So when they burn, they just burn.
Wow.
And at 86%, things fall off.
Yes.
And the doc told us his right hand was going to be relatively okay, but they were probably going to have to cut his left hand off.
Right.
We went back to our room. We said, God, can't accept that. He likes motorcycles. This is unacceptable to us. And it's the same. About 3 days later, I seen the doc in the hallway, and he said, Mr. Hendricks, I got to tell you, I think he's going to keep both of his hands. And that's who God is, because he knows his heart. His kidneys were supposed to shut down. They always shut down. You'll never find a burn victim that the kidneys didn't shut down until you look at my son. His kidneys never shut down. So God began to work when he said, I'm sorry to God. God began to work on his insides, which is normally what kills him, is the inside. So you'd have to do 2 more shows to get all of what God is doing in my son's life and in my life through his life.
Yes,
Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, Grady, how can people get in touch with you to hear more about this amazing, miraculous story?
You know what? They can email me personally. I got a business address. It's G Hendricks at what is it? I got my G Hendricks at ctn.net.
Good.
Best way is GradyHendricks.org. That's my website.
I love it.
So go to GradyHendricks.org, and you can contact me on that as well.
That is beautiful. And I'm sure you're probably going to get a lot of more opportunities to share this story, because it's definitely an inspiration, and it's the glory of the Lord that's demonstrated here.
And he has begun sharing, and that's important. So when we go somewhere, we had a revival this weekend. I know we're running out of time. We had a revival this weekend, and he literally was dancing to some music, and that literally changed the evangelist message.
Wow.
It was so anointed so that's what he's doing now. He makes a difference in people's lives.
Yes, sir, he does. Well, Robert, you've certainly made a difference in our lives today, and thank you so much for being with us and for sharing this story. And we just honor the work of God in you. And Grady, thank you. And you know what? You are an amazing father. You are a great dad. And Robert is so blessed to have you in his life. And God knew that this moment in time was going to come up. And he knew that you would be the right man to partner with him in bringing out this gold that is inside of Robert. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story. And so when did you realize it was a good time to be you?
As soon as when he started speaking in tongues.
Awesome. Robert, what about you? When did you realize it was a good time to be you?
When I figured out I wasn't in hell.
I love it. I love it. Well, how about at the count of 3, we let our audience know it's a good time to be them, okay? 1, 2, 3. It's a good time to be you. Hey everyone, to connect with Grady and Robert Hendricks, just go to GradyHendricks.org. And remember, it's a good time to be you.